Hi, I'm Jason Marks. I am the designer and manufacturer of espressoDECK here in Sydney, Australia. espressoDECK was the first ever patented recessed espresso coffee machine to the market. In this video, I'm going to show you how to remove and replace a hot water solenoid valve. Now, why would we need to do that? Over time, water contaminants will stop the solenoid valve from sealing properly, and you might see a slow drip appear there, and that can be dangerous for people operating in that area. Another reason might be that the coil has open circuited, in which place you would only really need to replace the coil. It can also short circuit, and that would normally result in taking out a fuse on your board. I'll show you that in a minute, where the fuse is on the board. Generally, if any one of those things happen, it's a good idea to remove and replace the whole solenoid valve as one. So on a solenoid valve, you've got some numbers and an arrow. Number 1 is normally the input, and number 2 is the output. You've also got an arrow generally depicting that as well. When you order your solenoid valve, you might want to order the replacement fittings as well. They can either be Teflon taped in or liquid Tefloned in to the correct finish position, but you can also remove your fittings off of your old one and reuse them. They're reusable, but it's I guess nice to have brand new parts there readily available should something go wrong with the old one when removing it. So to get to that, we are going to, first of all, the machine needs to be off and cooled down. We're now playing with water and electricity, so disconnect from the power point and allow your machine to cool down. It actually does not need to be out of the bench like this. It's just a lot easier for demonstration purposes to show you. Basically, I'll be removing the cup warming tray and the drips tray to have full access to everything. Okay, so first of all, I will remove with a 7/16 little spanner. You can use a shifter. It's just a nice little one to use here. Because it's Teflon hose, it's rather slippery. So I just have some silicone hose here that I use, and that gives me a nice little grip and makes that easily pull off. Okay, so after removing the outlet feed, which is feeding up to this outlet here, I will just disconnect the electrical plug, unplug that, free from the electricity, and then I'm going to get my 1/2 inch and undo the Teflon hose that's feeding from the boiler. So we're just going to undo that, wiggle that off. So we pull that off there, and now we're going to remove the solenoid valve completely. So it's easier if we just undo that nut here. It's a number 13. And then that will swing into position so that we can get to the Allen keys on top. This arm's flexible. The only thing that we want to not do is overflex the Teflon tubing on the back of the pressure gauges, and the whole thing comes out as such. So then we just want to either remove the fittings and attach it to this one, or put our new fittings on. So actually there's nothing wrong with this valve, so I'm going to be putting that back on. What I do like to do is put my hose back on this side. It's just a lot easier to attach it onto the boiler rather than behind there. Now I'm going to reinstall it. So we pop our hose into position. All of these fittings are reusable. You don't have to cut back any of the Teflon. They just plug straight on. So for example, this one here, we'll just plug back on and then make sure it's just neatly nipped up. And whilst I'm there, I'll reconnect the plug, do that up nice and firm, swing that around out of the way, and then with my 1/2 inch, come around and attach that hose there, do that up finger tight, and then nip it up with a little 1/2 inch. And then we just want to do that up. Nip that up so it's not going to wobble around. And that is removing and replacing the hot water solenoid valve. If you did have a short circuit and your fuse was taken out, that's on your computer here. So you've got 4 screws here to remove the transparent cover, and then you've got 2 screws to get into your computer. That's how your computer's set up inside there. You'll undo those screws, undo these screws then, and you will see on your board right here is a little fuse. That fuse is able to be unplugged. Obviously all of this is with the electricity off, unplugged from the wall. That's your fuse there. We remove that, discard it, put a new one in. It is a 3.15 amp fuse. Plug that back in and then you're off and running. It's important to make sure everything's done up nicely again, and that you haven't bumped any of the connectors there feeding low voltage or high voltage power. You do these back up nice and firm, and then please ensure that you make this cover snap back on into place. It's got a seal around there. It's important that that's put back on nicely. All of the wiring at the back slopes down on the way out. So if any water does get on there, it's IP56 rated, and anything at the back, the water doesn't flow into the machine. The cables are such directing it to roll and flow out from the computer. So thanks very much for watching. I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, please contact us at info@espressoDECK.com.